Many places are forever marked by events of the past. Some may be so tragic, they manifest into paranormal activity and cause hauntings. Ireland has many places which are said to be haunted. Not surprising, given its dramatic and often violent history. The book Haunted Ireland by Tarquin Black, circa 2014, is an absorbing read and a guide to the spookiest places to visit in every hidden dark place in Ireland tonight. Irish legends were tellings of vampires, banshees, and werewolves centuries before Hollywood ever heard of them. It is said that the people of Ossory, an ancient kingdom, could change themselves into wolves and were drawn by cannibals in the 12th century. While the original beautiful female vampire, Durg Dulea, rose from her grave to seduce living men and drain them of their blood, she still haunts Strongbow's Tree in Derry. So, for your listening pleasure tonight, we will explore 15 of the most famous of Ireland's haunted places, and you can even visit them in person if you dare. So close the blinds, dim those lights, cuddle under your favorite blanket, and let's begin. Number 1. The Abbey of the Black Hag in Limerick. Hidden in a secluded valley southeast of Shanagolden are the remains of a medieval convent where the prioress, a lady of the Fitzgeralds from Ballygally Castle, terrified the local population with her use of the black arts and sexual practices. The sacristy where she's buried is called Black Hag's Cell, after the blackness of her face when she died. Other reported ghosts include the Countess of Desmond, who was buried alive in the Abbey, a mistake that came to light when her menacing ghostly figure prompted an investigation of her makeshift grave, where her finger bones were found to be worn out and ragged from clawing. Today, her screams are heard throughout the ruins. Number 2. Aughrim Battlefield and its Jacobite ghosts in Galway. The battlefield is a vast cemetery, still haunted by the screams of the massacred Jacobite army, numbering thousands of bloody, mutilated bodies, and immortalized in Thomas More's poem, Forget Not the Field. In 1691, the cold-blooded Williamites made Jacobin blood run down the hillside in thick oozing streams, and the bodies of soldiers lay for more than a year until only their bones were left. One point in the field where blood gathered in large pools is still known as the Bloody Hollow. Number 3. Ballygally Castle in Cork. Those who have seen the apparition of poor vain Lady Margaret, one of the several ghosts that haunt the Tower House, disagree over whether she has a face. In the 17th century, Lady Margaret Hodnett was something of a Jezebel, with quite a number of suitors and an extensive collection of mirrors. Tired of being kept dangling, one of her men, Clon de Courcy, decided to starve her and her family into submission. After a year of this, the Honants surrendered, but Lady Margaret had lost her beauty and was found surrounded by unburied corpses and skeletal beings. Rejected then by Clon, she smashed all her mirrors, and to this day is seen wandering about the castle, a dark misty sphere around her shoulders, constantly rubbing at patches of the wall until they gleam like mirrors. Number 4. Captain Boyd's grave, St. Patrick's Cathedral in Dublin. The ghost of the black Newfoundland dog has often been seen sitting at the base of a life-size marble statue of Captain John Boyd in the cathedral and laying on his master's grave outside. The dog chose to starve to death at the grave rather than leave his master. After one of the largest funerals ever seen in Dublin, in 1861, Captain Boyd, accompanied everywhere by his dog at his heels, became a hero when he organized the attempted rescue of more than 135 ships and their crews wrecked between Howth and Wicklow. During a storm, Dunloggery was a scene of carnage with bodies and wreckage everywhere, yet Boyd lashed himself to his crew and went to sea in a futile attempt to save lives and was drowned with his men. Number 5. Coolbawn House in Wexford. Some have seen an apparition staring from the windows of the ruined 19th century Tudor revival house, known as Bruin's Folly, after Francis Bruin, who built it for his bride. But it's an unfortunate servant girl who haunts it. On a stormy night, she was standing close to a window in one of the upper rooms, to the east of the central porch tower, when she was struck dead by lightning. The grim figure of her electrified body was burnt into the panes of the glass for years after, until the house itself was burnt down by the IRA. Yet, even as the house crumbles, it is said that the apparition is seen staring through glassless windows. Number 6. Cork District Lunatic Asylum. The tortured echoes of ghostly inmates have been heard and even recorded in the abandoned asylum, built in 1798 by William Sanders Halloran, author of the first book on Irish psychiatry and inventor of the Halloran's chair, a rotating chair that spun the hysterical patient at 100 revolutions per minute. The derelict portion of the complex is said to be haunted by the despair souls who were condemned to live out their lives there. Paranormal investigators have seen ghosts of the inmates and recorded their voices. Glenulin in Derry. Abhardic, the original male vampire, and arguably the first vampire legend in the world, is buried here, standing upright and upside down. Abhartech comes from Lot Abhartech, sepulchre monument of the dwarf. As this vicious blood-drinking, black magic practicing monster was short of stature, the Druids called him Red Bloodsucker, and said that he could not be killed unless he was pierced with a sword made of hewed wood, then buried head downwards. The locals give the bad ground around the grave a wide berth, especially after dark. Some say that Bram Stoker's word Dracula comes from the Irish Droch for hola, pronounced Dracola, meaning bad blood. Number 8. Balon Guard House in Limerick. A sinister figure on horseback, said to be the devil or one of his dark apostles, is still seen around the mansion's crumbling walls. Edward Gill Crocker, part of the Cromwell's New Model Army, started with the status in 1730, but his worthless, arrogant, and uneducated direct descendants, who spawned many dark stories and frittered the fortune away by 1869. One night, a mysterious dark rider appeared from nowhere on the road by Edward Crocker's carriage, and then the men struck up a conversation which resulted in a dinner invitation to Ballygally. When the drunken stranger collapsed in the morning, a servant removed his boots to reveal hairy cloven feet, and, later, hoof marks seared into the floor by red-hot feet. A monster phrase, as sure as the devil was in Ballygally, is still used to say that something is fact. Number 9. Ducketts Grove in Carlow. The somber phantom music of an organ or harmonium can be heard emanating from the spooky ruins of this Gothic fantasy build in 1830, with numerous heads of humans and animals carved into it, was destroyed by fire 100 years later. Also, the location of numerous sightings of the Banshee or Bensai, fairy woman or spirit of death. The house has been investigated many times by paranormal investigators, and a TV show, Destination Truth. A spectral fox hunt also haunts the grounds, led by a hunting-obsessed, horn-blowing Duckett, who is often seen in the neighborhood these days. Number 10. The Hellfire Club in Dublin. This lonely, creepy hunting lodge in the Dublin mountains was the site of a satanic club whose members dressed as Satan, drank whiskey and butter from a cauldron, and may have eaten a servant girl alive. It was founded in 1735 by Richard Parsons, the ridiculously wealthy first Earl of Rosay, and the first Grand Master of the Irish Freemasons, who gained a reputation as a sorcerer dabbling in the black magic, using ancient Dionysian scrolls looted from the Great Library of Alexandria in 1270. He wrote a book, Dionysus Rising, and started the sacred sect of Dionysus to celebrate the joys of Bacchus and Venus, drinking and sex. This later became the Hellfire Club, where giant screaming black cats were captured, caged and roasted, until after 4 days the devil himself appeared to grant their wishes. Number 11. Lunatic Castle in Clare. This gaunt ruin is haunted by the menacing apparition of a red-haired girl, whose taunting cackles and screams are sometimes heard echoing from the walls. This is Red Mary, who dispatched her third husband by pushing him out of a third-story window. She married a total of 25 men, most of whom met early deaths in a similar fashion. The sadistic Mary kept a harem of young men disguised as maidservants, while torturing her real female maids by cutting off their breasts and hanging them by their hair. This psychopath was eventually sealed alive by the locals into a hollow tree trunk where she starved to death. Number 12. Seefield House in Sligo. Visited by the TV show Ghost Hunters and deemed haunted by their expert paranormal investigators, Seefield was the height of 19th century luxury, until one of the sons, Owen, brought home Egyptian mummies from his travels, stimulating the interest of a particular powerful poltergeist that would shake the house and shatter the ornaments. Poor terrified servants saw a menacing dark figure, and later a Jesuit priest had to be called in to perform a failed exorcism. One of the thieves once fired a shot at IRA soldiers who were attempting to evade the house across the tennis court, which may or may not be as real as the story, as the dark figure seen wandering across the grounds and disappearing into the Sligo Bay. Number 13. Balihaig Castle in Kerry. In June 1962, photographs of the burnt-out and derelict castle were developed to reveal a person holding a sword and dressed in 18th century clothing, complete with high boots and hat, thought to be one of the Danish crew of the Golden Lion, wrecked off of Balihaig Strand in the 18th century. The ship's $2 million in silver bullion resulted in a long-running conflict in which the Crosby family members were variously convicted, hanged, and poisoned. Some believe the bullion is still buried there. Early residents and the Cantillon family would leave their dead in coffins on the beach for the mermen to take. Local fishermen still believe they have seen the ruined walls of an old chapel beneath them in the water, and the flick of the Sea King's tail in the waves. Number 14. Loftus Hall in Wexford. This eerie house on the Hookhead Peninsula has been the site of strange goings-on since medieval times. There has been a dwelling on the site since then, and the current building was remodeled in the Georgian period. The late 18th century occupants of the building were the Tottenham family. One stormy night, a mysterious stranger joined them for a card game. During the game, one of the daughters, Anne, dropped a card and saw that the visitor had a cloven hoof as a foot. She recognized him as the devil, and sensing his imminent exposure, escaped by flying through the roof. Some remains of the hole he left can be seen to this day. Anne, never recovering from the trauma, shut herself in her room for years, until she died. Later, rumors circulated that the devil himself frequently appeared at Loftus Hall, and poltergeist activity was reported. Figures have been seen walking in the hall, only to suddenly disappear. Spectral horses were often heard outside the building. Several exorcisms were said to have been performed there in the past. And in 2014, an image of the ghostly woman, said to be Anne Tottenham, photographed at the hall, became an internet viral sensation, proving that the continued ghoulish interest in what is reputed to be Ireland's most haunted house. Number 15. Ballygally Castle in Antrim. The castle was built in 1625 by James Shaw, a Scotsman granted lands in Ireland. It has thick walls, corner turrets, and a steep roof on a picturesque site on the windswept Antrim coast. It is the only building from that period still being used as a residence in Northern Ireland. It came under assault and sheltered Protestant refugees during the 1641 rebellion, but withstood the siege and otherwise had a relatively uneventful history, which probably helped its architectural preservation. The chief tragedy that occurred in the building is the death of Lady Isabel Shaw. She is said to have mysteriously fallen to her death from a window in the castle after an argument with her husband. It is said that her ghost haunts the castle. Visitors to the castle have reported hearing unexplained noises and an eerie atmosphere. Many have spoken about feeling a presence in their rooms or of having their faces touched while asleep. Guests have reported hearing knocks on the door to find no one there on answering, as well as the noises of ghostly children running around. The so-called ghost room, located in one of the turrets, is no longer open to guests to sleep in, perhaps because of the paranormal activity associated with that particular room. Alright, my lovely lilies, thank you so much for watching the new video. If you can, hit that subscribe and like button, comment below and tell me your thoughts. Also, don't forget to tap the little notification bell so you're always in the know on this channel. As well, guys, you can always find me on Twitter, Instagram, Snapchat, and always you can hit me up in my emails. Feel free to send me your stories, whether they're fiction or totally true. I'm always up for some great stories. And oh, by the way, until next time, sweet dreams.